All right, I got the chip changed out. You there?
Okay, I'm here.
All right. Well, glad I didn't have to call you back. I just kept it rolling on the phone. So, you were talking to George Vasula and to Julia Precious, and the issue about metals came up, and you were discussing the idea of, how come there weren't so many issued on the east side. Now, I'm gonna play devil's advocate or defense of the reasoning behind that. Riley and Emery were taken out of the situation, so the top colonels in the equation were no longer part of the equation.
Yeah.
And medals are issued through officers; they never come up from the ground up. Like a private can't go out of his way to get one issued for another private, that kind of thing. So the officer corps kind of controls who gets a medal and who doesn't. Accurate?
Yeah, well, Rasula was trying to get him. As a matter of fact, in Chosen Appleman was talking, he kind of got a little section in there about why weren't there more medals. He said, but they tried to get people, their oral history. They would talk about what they did. They very seldom, because of the system of the way the medal was screwed up. They very seldom would say, would nominate somebody for a medal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, it was just like, say somebody stepped in front of you and say, or like, just like there, I could say, well, Alvin Irvin saved my life,
Yeah.
But that was only the first day, that was the first hour or the first day.
Yeah.
Of our battle, and the guys just went on. They said going through the other 4 days, and all that stuff. And the guy killed. Well, you don't know. He might have just stepped in front of you, and you were in you were in the sight of that guy. He pulls the trigger, and this guy just happens to walk behind you or something, and he takes the bullet.
Yeah, but
I'm
I'm sure it's safe to say that there were several occasions, much like in the Yudam-ni area, where a hand grenade was thrown in and somebody had the quick reflexes to throw it back out. Situations like that, I'm sure, were abounded on the east side as well as the west. And I would say no different than about...
That was the thing. That was the thing, like I said. Usually these things, I was reading about World War II, they were saying, like, Patton over there. Patton was saying, they were saying, you don't want too many Medal of Honors. You want, say, 1 or 2 per division or something. Don't go overboard on it.
Yeah.
But he said also, don't just deliberately snub the man. But anyway, he was really strict about that.
Yeah.
And apparently that's what happened there. You have to go on the certificate. And these certificates, some of these things for the Medal of Honor, they may go through 10 different officers.
Right.
And the guy may say, well, let me add to that, or let me put to that, or let me correct this, or,
It goes
In
to...
other words, like I'm saying here, talk about, I think back in chapter 19 or 20, about Ray Davis. That says, Ray Davis, in other words, the way the Army put it, the Medal of Honor is for, you can't tell a man to do it. You can't be ordered to do it. In other words, it's honorable thing you're doing, because you are disobeying orders.
Yeah.
And that's more or less how your Army Medal of Honors come in. So the guy says withdraw, and you don't withdraw.
Well, I recall...
You're in the battle, and you're staying with the battle. And you're killed or you're injured, and so that's how you get a Medal of Honor. That's why I singled out about 3 times in there about Mitchell.
Right.
Mitchell was supposed to be, that's the one that they were going to pick up and bring back, and they never got around to it.
Well, I'm about ready to get into that discussion, but in your conversation with Rasula, didn't he make a comment something along the lines of, I suppose we were remiss with regards to giving out medals?
Yeah, he could have done a lot, of course. He couldn't have done anything for us once the unit pulled back to Hagaru.
Yeah.
I think that's where Rasula, I think he lived with the kill trip, I think.
Okay.
And he missed all that.
All right, I'm gonna read you something from your book, and then I'm gonna get you to expand on it. Task Force McLean can also be compared to the Titanic, which collided with a moving iceberg. Had the Titanic's captain resisted the pressure to set a time record, and had he delayed increasing his speed by several knots, that iceberg would have moved out of the ship's path by natural progression. Therefore, the collision, at least with this particular iceberg, would never have occurred. Likewise, if General Smith had maintained his past speed of advance, his 1 mile per day strategy, and therefore failed to yield to whatever pressure was being applied to him, the 7th Division's relocation might have been more beneficial to his division than it was. General Smith was now relieved of the east side of the reservoir at Yudam-ni. He could have relocated his newly freed 5th Marine Regiment at Hagaru, since on 27 November, the CP of RCT 5 displaced from Hagaru to Yudam-ni and opened at 12:30 just west of Yudam-ni. Furthermore, the X-Corps never ordered these RCT 5 troops to relocate to Yudam-ni. If Smith had refused to move his RCT 5 troops, Hagaru would never have been in danger, and the Task Force Drysdale-McLean fake disasters would never have occurred. So my question is, are you suggesting that McLean should have delayed like Smith, or are you just stating that Smith was not keeping up with the assignment and following orders? You want to explain that in further detail?
McLean was actually following orders. Actually, that Patrick Rowe that wrote his book, The Dragon Strikes, but that other one where it said the Chinese failure, he had those 5 sections, and he had the first one about the commanders.
Okay.
And he was saying, in other words, he was suggesting that McLean should have stayed where he was. You know, never went in. And this was kind of a rebuttal that, like, if Smith would not have moved, he would have had everybody at Hagaru and Hagaru-ri.
Okay.
And all those tents and things that he put up at Yudam-ni that time, and he wouldn't have had to mess with Litzenberg right in the circle there.
Okay. So again, we're looking at...
They would have met as, in other words, you know, once the battle had started, it probably wouldn't have been a big raid on him, because then Ricks would have been right. He saved his Marines.
Yeah, they're well stated. Well stated.
But then like us, the suggestion was made, like I said, Patrick Rowe in that deal, that even the commanders, he had like the first little chapter he had on that was commanders. The commanders should have rebuffed, you know, and took on Alban and say this isn't right, or else Barr should have done it.
Okay.
Barr was no big favorite of Alban's either, you know.
Yeah. All right.
So naturally, but they said McLean was going to obey orders because he was a West Pointer.
Right.
So he was going to follow orders regardless, you know.
Because it was an order, yeah. And Faith was no different. He wasn't going to retreat until he had orders.
Yeah, and they really had no reconnaissance to help them. You know, to help them resist.
Yeah.
You're just told, get over there ASAP, you know.
Right.
Get over on this east side of the river as fast as you can.
So in the big scheme of things, though, Truman was looking for fast and furious, and Smith was looking at more slow and controlled. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, that's what he wrote when he got in there, when he wrote to his commandant. He told him, I think that was the 15th, I think the 15th of November.
Yeah.
He told him, we lose our efficiency when we're separated.
Right.
In other words, he said, I want to get in other words, get his act together, I want to get my men all concentrated.
Right.
What he was striving for, and that's what he was delaying for.
Yeah.
And then it's like he said, he would have, because he uses his own thing when he says on his oral history, Bob, when he says that the pressure was put on me
Yeah, so the first plan under Operation Order 6 was an attack was going to move westward on the 25th. And Litzenberg was nowhere in position to make that happen because on the 14th he was still at Hagaru, and it took him 11 days to get the 7th along Tong Pass, up Fox Hill and Turkey Hill, and into perimeter at Yudam-ni. That took him 11 days.
Well, in other words, Smith up against Allen saying, look, for like Appleman says, going to Yahoo, what he's saying is, you don't have to move. We're going to stay here. And apparently Allen comes in and says, look, for 11 days you only move 11 miles.
Right.
And like he said, he says, apparently that's what I thought, that somehow Shepard get with the program.
Lynn Shepard?
Because like you said, where did that pressure come from? I think the pressure was coming from, sooner or later, somebody was going to reach in and pull O.P. Smith out of there.
Yeah.
Because he was not following orders. And I mean, he had MacArthur even up at the top with his 5 stars couldn't move him.
Well, the orders.
Certainly Allen couldn't.
Well, the orders under.
So where did the pressure come from? He said, finally the pressure was put on me. I think the pressure was, I got to get him moving or I'm going to go be replaced right on the spot.
Okay, well let me throw this into the equation. Sam Arredondo, who previously was with the 1st Armored Division, was attached to the 1st Rocks and had moved within 10 clicks of the Yalu on the western side, working under General Walker. Almond, Barr, and a few others had made it all the way to the Yalu with the 17th Regiment, and it became a kind of a habit, or not a habit, but a tradition that everybody that got up there went over to the Yalu and took a piss. So as far as Almond and the Army doing what Truman wanted, or MacArthur wanted, the Army actually completed their goals of getting to the Yalu. And that to me is support of MacArthur's home by Christmas. Because this is Thanksgiving, right? And everything's moving as planned. And the difference is that 20-mile swath of area of operation given to the Marines is on a slow draw. So you have a horseshoe of movement to the left and right and a slow draw up the middle. And that gap is what created the problem at the Chosin Reservoir. That's my take on it. And the maps actually validate that.
That's what I put in the book too, was going back to that Ralph Smith deal, Smith versus Smith in World War II.
Yeah.
Where he was complaining to the Navy. He said, this guy Smith, this other guy Smith, he says, we had a unit there, and he said we were supposed to move, and the Army was slow to move, which created a dip in the middle.
Yeah.
And there's like the horseshoe again.
Yeah.
And he said the dip in the middle. I said, well, the first thing you learn in combat, they say, like, what kind of terrain was in the middle? Because you might have a deep gully you have to go through it up,
Yeah.
It all depends on what the land looks like,
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what he accused, and he kept that in his crawl all the way for, I think, about 3 months. As a matter of fact, they already built the ship, I think, Saipan or something.
Yeah.
They built the ship and had it in duty before he finally went to Admiral King, and she said, I want him replaced.
Okay.
And so then Admiral King's the one who wrote the order, says replace him. And then he was replaced with this Garner guy, I think, that was Army. And then Richardson comes on. He was over the Army. And he said, why did you replace my man? I'm the one supposed to do that. And he said, what are you doing here? He said, I got permission from Nimitz to be here.
Okay.
So that created a whole battle. See, that's what started that with Smith. After that fact, the Joint Chiefs of Staff said never again will the Army serve under a Marine commander.
Yeah. Okay.
See, that's what come in about John Fleet getting rid of him.
All right. Well, I want to touch on a couple things. This is another paragraph from your book. The problem seems to be that Smith was true to his well-stated delaying persona and his reputation as a general who rarely gave an order and who delegated his authority to his G3 Alpha Bowser. Smith lived up to his reputation many times through his delays and his inability to take the military risk involved with seeking out the enemy in his own area. So that brings up this question. Mitchell gets the Medal of Honor when he's killed when they find the supply dump south of the Toctong Pass, right? And that happens on the 26th, a day after the original orders to fight westward from Yudam-ni, and a day before the first Chinese attack, which would have been the same day that the Marines were supposed to fight out and break out again westward. So regarding the Chinese supply dump, could it have been a North Korean dump, or was it confirmed that it was Chinese?
It's probably mostly the North Koreans still playing North England left it.
Yeah.
It was probably had some stuff there.
Right. But in terms of
They pretty well, we got into that, the North Koreans pretty well dropped out of the picture.
yeah.
It was all about the Chinese there.
Okay. I just that question popped in my head, and I thought it'd be a fair reality. But if you go back to the 26th, when you're moving the 3rd Battalion of the 5th Marines through Hagaru, they could have been held at Hagaru. Definitely the 2nd and 3rd or 2nd and 1st battalions of RCT 5 could have been held at Hagaru and supported that proverbial Y that Rick's is so often big to talk about, because at that point you already had Colonel Faith and his 32nd already up there trying to take over the Marine positions up there. But when the 2nd and the 1st group came through Hagaru from the Marines, they slowed the progress of you guys getting up to Yudam-ni and Hill 1221 points north. You know, but officially, when they found that supply dump, they didn't take it out. They didn't have it. I don't see any records where it was bombed out. I don't see any.
You don't even know where those troops went, because apparently, you never heard any more about Mitchell. You don't know if they drug him off or they just left him there and he stayed there for the remainder of the battle because nobody ever got in that area again.
All right, well, let me read.
The Chinese had to be strong down there that they couldn't get to them, or then probably the Chinese were advancing north now into Yudam-ni.
All right, well, let me read 2 paragraphs from your book. According to Smith, at 1500, a patrol from A Company 17 Marines made contact with an undetermined number of enemies southwest of Hang-Song-ni, 4 miles southwest of Yudam-ni, exchanged fire with the enemy, who withdrew to the southwest. The patrol returned to the perimeter at 1730, reporting the area cleared of the enemy. Other local patrols of the 17th ranged as far as 2,000 yards east of the MSR without making enemy contact. A large recon patrol from 1A7, I think we determined that to be 125 men, which is a pretty big INR platoon, but anyway, engaged the enemy in one of its staging areas at Hang-Song-ni. This engagement killed 3 Marines and left them MIA. Among these Marines was First Lieutenant Frank N. Mitchell, whose body was never claimed. Mitchell was awarded the Medal of Honor. The Mitchell incident occurred on the evening of November 26 while the Marine 2-5 Battalion was moving westward past Hagaru and onto Yudam-ni. Due to this oversight, the 2 remaining battalions, 1-5 and 3-5, did not relocate from Sing-ni until the early morning of November 27th. Right? And that's, I don't think that's entirely accurate, just to be clear. Between nightfall and daylight, Colonel Bowser should have halted these 2 battalions at the Yudam-ni Hagaru Sing-ni axis for a G2 intelligence briefing to process this engagement information. With the data the 1A7th had just reported to G2, Bowser could have commenced an immediate continuing attack against the enemy staging area near Yudam-ni. Instead, 1A7 had orders from Colonel Litzenberg to secure a hill overlooking the road at Yudam-ni. Well, that's the Turkey Hill. That's not Fox. That's not Fox Company. Okay, that's the beleaguered rifle company.
Yeah. No, the beleaguered one is on the first. That's when they were breaking camp at Yudam-ni, and then they went back and Davis went over across the hill, and then he was supposed to rescue Fox Company.
Okay.
And that's the beleaguered rifle company they're talking about.
Hmm.
In other words, he got a medal of honor for that, which made it 3 for that Fox Company.
Yeah, but he didn't. Davis didn't get to Fox Hill until the morning of December 2nd.
Yeah, but they took off. See, in other words, Smith ordered him out of there. He ordered Luxembourg out again on the 29th.
And he was still sitting
Well,
there.
I need a day to regroup to get my people ready.
Okay.
So they didn't really leave till first.
Yeah, but they should.
And then he had assigned Davis to go ahead and clear the road again. And that's why I said that's where that 23-mile round trip miles come in.
Okay.
They're going over land that already they said the enemy was patrol, and they had to knock the enemy out again on the third time because Luxembourg called them back to the Yudam-ni.
Yeah, so Davis would take off. I think he had K Company and 2 others. They would go out. They'd go to Turkey Hill. They'd clear the road that far, and then Litzenberg would.
2.5 miles.
And Litzenberg would call him back. This happened not only once but twice.
Yeah, but you had given them orders to rescue them and go on to rescue Fox Hill, and then proceed back to Hagaru-ri.
Yeah, but he.
That was kind of odd for Luxembourg, because that was going to support, knock out his support.
Well,
the battalion.
and the issue.
That's what I brought up with Davis. See, Davis, that was not his battalion. It was the 1st battalion.
Right.
That was Lockwood's battalion, the 2nd battalion.
Right.
That's why I said, so he was ordered to do that, and under the Army, that wouldn't have counted for a Medal of Honor because you're ordered to do it. You're under orders.
Yeah. Okay.
You see, that's why I was saying that I always hung to that, like I said, the act must be so rare that you're not ordered to do it,
Right.
Otherwise, you're just following orders.
Right. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to stop there for today, and we're gonna pick this back up again because the next time we talk, I want to talk about what's going on with Chesty Puller and the 45th Commandos, what their orders were, what was expected of them. But today I think we did a pretty clear analysis that the Army was following the orders true to mark and doing everything that they were supposed to do. They got to the Yalu damn near. At the point that Walker's 8th Army was pulled back and where Sam Maridano's take was, they were pulled back by orders because the operational area of operation lines were redrawn. And we'll talk about that on our next interview. So I'm going to stop the camera right there, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, see,
All right.
See, I'm getting a lot of fuzzy on some of this stuff. Like I got Martin Rush book. I said, I got these books I'm I'm trying to remember. I haven't got Martin Rush one. Man, I mean, he was really rough on us.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, he's that one with that radio deal I got in there. When they said that I mean.
What, Stanford on the radio?
I'm looking at the books over here. I got the Chosen one and that. You got that one, Escaping and Trap, Bob.
Yeah, I got it.
Did you look at the first couple pages of that on where Alma's backtracking on MacArthur?
Okay. Well, let's.
Arguing about MacArthur's orders.
Well, I left the camera running. I left the camera running.
Well, I read that, I said, well, darn it, I said, you know, Appleman's getting into quicksand here. I said, he's trying to, since I didn't chosen him so well, I said, I think he's trying to correct some of his mistakes and he's getting a role for himself.
Yeah, kind of stepped in his own.
He said, man, Oliver would never go against MacArthur.
Yeah, well, that
On that video, you know, he says, who's up there said that they had the interview, oh, nobody would go against MacArthur. He was so right as in shot.
yeah, but that's not it.
But at the end, we printed a book on that addendum, you know, that what he said in that policy and direction.
So how many times? How many times do you think Allman argued with MacArthur over plans?
Well, I think MacArthur pretty well let Allman do his thing, and until he wanted that, you know, because the pressure was put on MacArthur, just like it was on Smith. The pressure was put on him from above when the Joint Chiefs of Staff said, you're not doing enough, and you're not hitting enough enemy in your area, you've got to help Walker.
Yeah.
You've got to help Walker, because he's over there closer to China, and they're coming in, and that's when they drove him back from the Chosin Reservoir to up there near the dam.
Yeah.
The rocks were up there, you know, another book you were working on.
Okay. All right.
Because they were driving him back. And he said, you've got to help, you've got to try to help Walker. And then that's why he said, well, the road you're talking about that I should come in is behind Walker. So that won't help him. That's coming in behind him.
Right.
So that's when he said that the draft 1 and 2, he said, we can look at that road when we get there. It may be favorable.
Yeah.
They said we have to reach there. In other words, reach there first.
We're talking about Operation Order 7, drafts 1, 2, and 3, all of which were approved by MacArthur, and all of which, if you look at the lower level command structure and the orders coming out from them, like McLean, all of those were put into play at some level at some point.
You know, I think what it was when Alman put that back that draft 1 and 2, he gave that over to, like I said, all of those were approved by MacArthur. In other words, he didn't care when you went or where you went, just get the show on the road.
Get the job done. Kind of a fast and...
Yeah, that's what he was pushed for. I don't want to hear all this stuff about draft 1 and draft 2.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get up there and see what the road looks like. Get up there.
Yeah.
But you had that problem with Smith.
And we'll make that adjustment.
I couldn't figure why MacArthur didn't intervene in there.
Well, he didn't like...
I want a replacement for Smith.
Yeah, he didn't like coming out of his offices, according to a lot of people, but the interesting part about that is that when he flew over on the 22nd, 23rd to see Walker, he flew along the Yalu River unescorted for a good part of the way, and he ended up getting an air medal for it because he was an unescorted. He took his baton ship up, that airship baton. He flew that along the Yalu border to try to get a physical assessment himself at lower altitudes of where the Chinese were and what they were doing.
Yeah, he wanted to see what's going on from the air.
Which I think is interesting because a lot of people make the argument that, you know, he was surrounded by sycophants and never wanted to leave his Japanese embassy, which isn't accurate at all. You know, but...
Yeah, he said he just had his regular routine at an embassy, you know.
Yeah.
Just like you said when MacArthur, when Truman called up, he was having a party.
Yeah.
And they said the guy come out and whispered, his aide come out and whispered to him, you know, he says, sir, you just been released by the president down there.
Yeah, well that's in April. We'll get further into that. Alright man, I'm going to cut it off right there and we'll pick back up on this again. Alright?
Okay.
All right, this will be part one of the Ray Vallowe interviews. Let me turn this camera off.
Okay.